Like many of you, some of us professional ball players have to pick up and move in a hurry. So when your address is going to change, call Sports Illustrated's customer service hotline at 1-800-528-5000. They'll make sure that when you move, your subscription will be sent to the right address each week. You can even call the same number to subscribe, to renew, or to give Sports Illustrated as a gift. It's that easy. Now sit back and enjoy your video.
If we make it, we go on to Super Bowl 25. If we miss it, we go back to New Jersey, we go home, our season's over, and we're going to watch the Super Bowl at home on television.
There's the snap, there's the kick, and it is good! And the Giants have gone.
It was like a rolling ball. We became more confident within ourselves as a unit.
Right before the game, I told the guys, I said, hey guys, hang on, I'm going to carry us today.
To the Minnesota center fielder is driven to deep left center field. It is gone, home run bucket.
It's over! The Balloons have pulled off the biggest upset in the history of Duke basketball!
And late play, Lord Stanley's got 3 sets to 2.
1991 was a special year in sports. A year we'll remember for its triumphs and tragedies. A year when records were set and hearts were broken. A year when old became young and last became first. A year in which old champions rose again and new champions confirmed their greatness. Sports Illustrated presents The Year in Sports, 1991, beginning with the Pro Football Championships in January.
It didn't take long for the eager Buffalo Bills to establish their dominance over the Los Angeles Raiders in the AFC Championship game. An NFL playoff record 41 first-half points led to a 51-3 rout, making Buffalo's first trip to the Super Bowl an easy one.
Go pack your bag! Go pack your bag! Where we going? To the show. Where we going? To the show. What time? Next week? What time is it? Showtime, baby! Yeah!
But the New York Giants' trek to Tampa was a bit more adventurous.
Let's set the tempo. Hang on to the ball, no penalty. Let's go get him, guys.
In the low-scoring NFC Championship game between the Giants and the San Francisco 49ers, the hits were hard and many. But none affected the game more than the one Leonard Marshall put on Joe Montana in the fourth quarter. With Montana out, the Giants cut San Francisco's lead to a single point. And then after recovering a Roger Craig fumble with just 2.5 minutes to play, New York started a drive that would ultimately put them in position for a possible game-winning field goal.
All I can remember telling them, we got a minute to go. We're a minute away from Tampa Bay, baby. We got a minute to go. And I just kept yelling. And next thing I know, we get the ball in position. I'm saying, man, if they get that ball close enough, I know Matt's going to make the kick.
It comes down to the last play, the last kick. And if we make it, we go on to Super Bowl 25. If we miss it, we go back to New Jersey, we go home, our season's over, and we're going to watch the Super Bowl at home on television. And there's guys holding hands, there's a lot of guys kneeling down, saying a little prayer.
On the game's last play, Matt Barr tried to answer all those giant prayers.
I think the joy of making a kick is nowhere near the anguish of missing a kick.
Here's the kick. It's long enough. And it is good. And the Giants have gone to the Super Bowl.
With the specter of the Persian Gulf conflict hanging heavy in the Tampa Bay air, the New York Giants and Buffalo Bills prepared for the NFL's ultimate battle. Early on, the Bills threatened to turn the game into another super rout, racing out to a 12-3 lead, while nearly putting Giants quarterback Jeff Hostetler out of the game.
I got my share of licks, the first half, but I'd come so far, and I wasn't about to let any of those hits knock me out of a game that meant so much to me and meant so much to our team.
The blitz is on. Here's Hostetler throwing. End zone touchdown.
powerful and punishing running of Super Bowl MVP Otis Anderson, the Giants kept control of the ball and took control of the game.
If the team that I was playing with was there and I was the featured running back, I'll win MVP. That's something that I said in 1979. So now we're in Tampa, my last chance to fulfill my dream. And I just knew within my heart that the good Lord up above was going to finally give me my wish and my desire.
But in a game of this magnitude, desire plays both sides. Behind Jim Kelly, the Bills rallied once to take the lead, then fell behind, and ultimately mounted one last drive to give Scott Norwood a chance to win the game with a 47-yard field goal as time wound down.
I was kneeling on the 40-yard line, and I remember there was a timeout and looking over and seeing their sidelines and looking down and seeing our sidelines and looking out there and seeing Norwood getting ready to kick the ball, and just thought to myself, you know, hey, it's out of my control, and it was a great game.
Because we played our hearts out, and we really weren't supposed to be there to begin with. But yet, we knew that going to the Super Bowl was one thing, but winning it is another, because we had been there before.
It is a 47-yard try by Scott Norwood to try to win the game for Buffalo.
I can remember hearing the thud of the football when he hit it.
There's a kick. It is up. It is no good. Norwood missed. The Giants have won Super Bowl 25.
In what would turn out to be Bill Parcells' last game as Giants coach, New York had won the most thrilling and dramatic Super Bowl of them all by a single point.
Everson Walls with his classic jump up in the air. I mean, that he expressed the joy I felt for winning that game.
The 1991 NCAA basketball tournament was once again a mix of sweat and toil, of intensity and resolve. But even before the tournament began, through a regular season filled with months of disappointment and elation, we learned that the makings of a champion can be found in any number of teams, and that every year has its share of memorable and exciting moments. Individually, the star of all stars was LSU's 7'1" sophomore center Shaquille O'Neal, who so dominated his opponents, it was hardly a surprise that he was named the Associated Press's College Player of the Year. But even more dominant were the undefeated UNLV Runnin' Rebels. Coach Jerry Tarkanian's bunch sped through its season without so much as a close game, and went into the tournament overwhelming favorites to win a second consecutive national championship. By Final Four time in Indianapolis, the question wasn't whether the Rebels would win, but by how much. It was UNLV against the other three, two of which would meet in a semi-final round game that featured North Carolina's Dean Smith facing his former assistant, Kansas coach Roy Williams. The favored Tar Heels broke on top quickly, taking an early 8-point lead, but Kansas soon came back, outscoring North Carolina 24-7 in an 8-minute span to take command of the game. In the end, it was the student over the teacher as Kansas hung on for a 79-73 win. The Final Four's marquee matchup between Duke and UNLV was a rematch of the 1990 championship game. But unlike the previous year, Duke came out confident and strong.
The ball is up and the tip is controlled by Grant Hill. Takes it away from Anthony and lays it in for the first.
Led by tournament MVP Christian Laettner, the Blue Devils broke out to an early lead, but UNLV charged back to go up by 2 at the half. Duke, however, never let the Rebels run away, and with a little more than 2 minutes left and UNLV up by 5, Bobby Hurley hit his third three-pointer of the game. A minute later, the Blue Devils tied the game, and then with time running down, Duke got the ball back again.
18 seconds left. Thomas Hill going to the hole. Pull-up jumpers up. It rolls off. Tip. Leitner has a loose ball. He's fouled in the play. No shot. No shot. That means it's 2 free throws for Leitner with 12 seconds left.
When they called a timeout, we went to the bench. I just looked at Christian and said, "Wait, you have it." You know, he says, "Coach, I got it. I got him."
It was a case where I'd been shooting 80% all year, and especially well in the NCAA tournament from the free throw line. So the only thing that went through my mind the whole time was, if I make these, wow, we're going to beat UNLV. We're going to beat UNLV.
Maybe the 2 most important free throws of his career. First one's good.
I knew he would hit him. I mean, I just knew that he would hit him. I don't know if I would hit him in that situation, but I knew Christian Leitner was going to do it.
Shots up. Shots in. Duke by 2. 79-77. Now to Johnson, make him bring it up with 9 seconds left. Johnson to the right side. Johnson fakes, looking, 5 seconds to Hunt. Anderson Hunt stops, fires a 3. No! It's off the mark. It's over! The Blue Devils have pulled off the biggest upset in the history of Duke basketball. The biggest upset in the history of Duke basketball. They have beaten the number 1 UNLV Running Rebels. It's 79-77.
Let's pass out the shark meat in Durham.
Holy cow, what a finish! Christian Leitner's 2 free throws with 12 seconds left.
We had tried to prepare our team to win the national championship, not just to win the national semifinal game. And we knew going in that the biggest challenge of that weekend would not be the Vegas game, would be after, if we beat Vegas, what would happen. That would be the biggest challenge, and that would be the thing that no one would really focus on except us.
Hey, you can't pace yourself because there's no tomorrow. Let's go. 1 game, 2, 3, win. Let's go. Far best. Let's go. Far best.
After Duke's monumental upset, the championship game turned out to be predictably anticlimactic. Kansas never wavered, but with the title in sight, Duke made certain its game remained on a level above the rest.
I don't know how he got up there to get it. I never thought he would save it.
When it left my hands, I thought it was going to be a decent pass, but that thing just kept sailing up and up and up, and he just jumped, and he was kind of off balance, and he just stretched his arm as far as he could back, and he just took it and thrusted it in the basket. I don't know how he did it.
There wasn't much to question about Bobby Hurley. The Duke guard played every minute of both Final Four games, controlling the tempo and taking the Blue Devils to the top of college basketball.
2, Jordan, let's fly. It is over. The Destiny Darlings have done it. The Duke Blue Devils have won their first ever national basketball championship. 72-65 over the Kansas Jayhawks. There is pandemonium here above the Duke faithful. There is pandemonium, I'm sure, in the heart of the Duke faithful.
Players that I love and the people I really love were right there, and they were all together. And it was kind of a Duke celebration, not just for the '91 team, but for all the teams that had been to the Final Four.
In a year when the 4 majors were won by 4 different golfers, the Masters went to Ian Woosnam of Wales, who captured the first major title of his career, winning on the tournament's final hole. Woosnam's win was the 4th consecutive by a European at Augusta. But thanks to Payne Stewart, who beat Scott Simpson in an 18-hole playoff, the U.S. Open title remained in American hands. A playoff decided the U.S. Senior Open as well, with Jack Nicklaus shooting a course record-tying 65 and beating Chichi Rodriguez. In women's golf, Meg Mallon managed to make enough putts to win 2 majors in 2 weeks, the LPGA Championship and the U.S. Women's Open. It was, however, a missed putt that decided one of the most thrilling matches in Ryder Cup history. The biannual competition between Europe's best golfers and those from America went down to the final hole, and when Germany's Bernhard Langer missed, the United States won the Ryder Cup for the first time since 1983. But without a doubt, the biggest story of the golf season was the legend of John Daly. Entering the PGA Championship as the last alternate, Daly continually unloaded from the tee, stunning his fellow golfers and winning over disbelieving fans on his way towards becoming the first rookie to win a major title since 1976. The most wide-open hockey season in the last decade began with no clear-cut favorite for the Stanley Cup and ended with a new order in both team and individual honors.
Fedorov holds it. Still got it.
It out. Lead for Padre. He's in alone. Scores! Break for Lemieux. Coming in on Hayward. Oh! They
score! The big individual story was Brett Hull, who won his first goal-scoring title with 86, the third highest total in league history.
He scores! Brett Hull, number 50. He scores from the slot, and Hull has number 50. He becomes only the 5th player in NHL history to score 50 goals in 50 games. Number 16, Brett Hull scores number 50 here in the third.
Hull's St. Louis Blues made a quick playoff exit courtesy of the surprising Minnesota North Stars, who along with the Pittsburgh Penguins were the dominant teams of the Stanley Cup playoffs. After finishing a distant 4th in their division during the regular season, the North Stars knocked off both the Chicago Blackhawks and the Blues, and then the defending Cup champion Edmonton Oilers to reach the Stanley Cup Finals. Pittsburgh's run to the finals included surviving a first-round 7-game series against the New Jersey Devils. They followed that with a couple of easier wins over Washington and Boston, as the rest of the Penguins followed the lead of their star Mario Lemieux to their first final-round appearance in team history.
Both can't get it. Center. Shot the score by Lemieux with the...
Before the finals, the question for the Penguins was whether they could overcome both their own dismal playoff history and the emerging Minnesota mystique.
Break up the ice comes Lemieux, one-on-one with Casey. Game is tied.
First point of the playoffs, or at least of the final series, looked easy for...
Here's Lemieux. Coming right in on Casey. The big guy shoots. He scores!
In the end, after falling behind 2-1, Lemieux and the Penguins had too many weapons and too much firepower for the North Stars, and eventually won the series in 6 games, taking home their first Stanley Cup.
The greatest moment in the history of the franchise.
In a league of stars, the star of stars soared above the rest. But the NBA season was once again filled with all kinds of spectacular performances. best regular season record belonged to the Portland Trail Blazers, who started the year by winning 19 of their first 20 games and went into the playoffs as favorites to win their second NBA crown. The Blazers, however, just couldn't find a way to contain the determined Lakers. Leave it to Magic Johnson to upset Portland. Although the Blazers were expected to take their second consecutive Western Conference title, Los Angeles held on to take favored Portland in 6. Going into the Eastern Conference Finals, the smugly confident Detroit Pistons fully expected to continue their quest for a third straight NBA crown. But the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan had other plans.
We had to get over the intimidation factor. This team has intimidated us for 3 years in a row. This team has always been vocal towards us, trying to take our minds away from the game. I said, let's use some reverse psychology. Let's go and start talking trash to them, and see how they take it.
Double team underneath Livingston. He missed the dunk, but Rollins.
Next thing you know, we had them rattled.
Sometimes he loses his cool when he gets upset.
It was like a rolling ball. We became more confident within ourselves as a unit. So we used that reverse psychology to beat them.
Beat them they did in 4 straight, humiliating the ex-champions along the way. If Michael Jordan was to win an NBA championship, his Bulls would have to overcome Magic Johnson, the league's consummate winner.
Somehow we're going to have to outsmart these guys because they've been there. Magic's been there, 11 times, 12 times? We knew they were an older team. We were hoping they were not as hungry as we were.
Playing in their first NBA Finals, the Bulls confidently charged onto the Chicago Stadium court with a 15-game home playoff winning streak and the many talents of the best player in the game.
Wide open. The cross-court pass stolen by BJ. To Michael, back to BJ. To Michael. BJ.
Soon, however, it became apparent that Michael and the Bulls had underestimated the Lakers' appetite. Down 2 with 15 seconds left, Sam Perkins hit a three-point shot to give LA the lead. Now with a game on the line, it was obvious what Chicago would do.
Everyone in the gymnasium, everybody that was watching television knew I was going to take the shot. I got the ball very easily and got an open shot and felt in rhythm. It rattled in and came out. And right then I just knew, I said, it was not meant to be. But it was a moral victory for us because, hey, we didn't play well, but yet we had a chance to win the ball game at the end. This is what we took from that first game. And from that point on, I knew we could win. I anticipated Sam Perkins coming up and blocking the shot, and I exposed the ball a lot more than I wanted to, and I had all the intentions of dunking the ball. And for some reason, I just switched hands because I anticipated him jumping to block the shot. And it came off great. I made the shot. It looked great. But from everyone's perspective, it was very creative, and it was something that I planned to do when I first took off the ground. But the defense altered that shot, and my instinctive creativity took over in the air.
When the series shifted to Los Angeles for the pivotal third game, the Lakers raced out to a 13-point lead midway through the third quarter. But the Bulls came back to tie the game halfway through the fourth. Chicago eventually took a 1-point lead into the game's waning moments before Vlade Divac completed a three-point play to put LA up by a basket. Down 2 with 10 seconds left, Michael had a chance for redemption.
I thought back to game 1. I said, well, this is a possibility that I can redeem myself. And I was very surprised that Phil chose to take the ball full court instead of moving moving up to half court. But I was able to beat Byron and able to get a shot off before they reacted. It was an inch from Vlade Divac's fingertips. He almost blocked that shot, but I was able to get it off, and that's a redemption. And that was something that played in my mind, that it was going to happen at some point in time in that series. I was going to get a chance to redeem myself, and that was a good opportunity, and it happened.
In overtime, Jordan scored half of the Bulls' 12 points as Chicago took a giant step towards the title by outlasting the Lakers 104-96. Michael's magic set the tone for the rest of the series. The Bulls were on the loose, and the rout was on. Perhaps most gratifying to Chicago was that their domination over the Lakers was far from a one-man show. John Paxson, for one, hit from all over the court, shooting 70% from the field over the final two games. The 91 finals also served as a coming-out party for Scottie Pippen, who showed the rest of the country what Chicago had known all along, that he is one of the league's premier players. Michael Jordan's teammates had finally flown as high as the NBA's most celebrated player.
I think it was just their self-determination to say, hey, we're a part of this team as well as Michael is a part of this team. And we feel we make contributions to this team as much as he does. And they did it.
In the end, though, it was Jordan who gained the most, answering his critics by demonstrating that he, too, was a winner like Magic, leading the Bulls to their first ever title in becoming only the second player in NBA history to win in the same year the regular season scoring title and the NBA championship.
The Bulls are the world champions.
We get into the locker room. I get on my knees, and I say thank you. I say a prayer real quickly, and then we all said the prayer. And then once I got the trophy, it was all an emotional situation. This is what for 7 years, I've been struggling trying to get to this point. People said that I may not ever get to it, and that's the most emotional that I've ever been publicly. And it was one of those situations where I just couldn't control myself. I was overwhelmed by the whole situation, and it was a very thrilling situation for me.
Biggest newsmaker in women's tennis in 1991? Who else but 17-year-old Monica Seles? Not only did she cause an uproar with her mysterious withdrawal at Wimbledon, Seles earned the most money, became the world's #1 ranked player, and won all 3 of the Grand Slam tournaments she entered. Seles' success was no surprise. France's, however, was almost unimaginable. Led by Guy Forget and Henri Lecomte, the French upset a U.S. team which included Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras. And as most of France celebrated, along with Captain Yannick Noah, took possession of the Davis Cup for the first time since before World War II. Jimmy Connors didn't win a single tournament in 1991, but the 39-year-old won over fans at the U.S. Open with a study in ability and willpower that left nearly everyone in an emotional frenzy. Although he would ultimately lose to Jim Courier in the semifinals, Connors left us with a memorable 5-match string that amazingly included 2 5-set wins over opponents almost half his age.
Nearly everywhere you looked in 1991, a ghost from our sporting past was attempting to recapture former glory. Some succeeded, some failed, but perhaps they all felt the same as one who gave it another try. Unfortunately for Mark Spitz, his comeback try didn't exactly happen the way he would have liked, and it ended after several disappointing performances. The same thing happened to pitcher Jim Palmer, whose spring training attempt to become baseball's first active Hall of Famer lasted just 17 days. Bjorn Borg and his antiquated wood racket produced another failed comeback in 1991, apparently losing in the first round of the Monte Carlo Open to a player he would have hammered in his heyday was too much for the former champion to take.
I didn't play any matches for many years, and to play against all the guys today, you really need to be match tough.
Some who came back were match tough, like Jimmy Connors on the court and a fellow fighter in the ring.
I want to fight again so bad I can taste it.
George Foreman's comeback was little more than a curiosity before his title bout against Evander Holyfield, but afterwards, George had people believing.
George Foreman came, he saw, he conquered.
It was the biggest bout of 1991. Evander Holyfield, current heavyweight champion of the world, against the 42-year-old former champion George Foreman in what was dubbed the Battle of the Ages.
Jim, I see this as a fight between George Foreman's 70s Cadillac and Evander Holyfield's 90s Corvette. If they collide, maybe the Cadillac can smash him up. But if it's a contest of quickness and youth, the Corvette has all the advantage.
Early in the fight, Holyfield seized the advantage and didn't let up.
The left and the right, and Foreman's in serious trouble. Bell may save him in this round.
When it boils down to the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, the rugged man, the outdoorsman, the fellow with the hatchet and the axe in his hand, he's going to be the one. That's what it was all about. Who's the toughest guy in the world?
It was in the 7th round that both fighters staked their claims to the title of toughest guy in the world. First it was Foreman, who punished Holyfield with several blows to the head, but Evander stood tall.
I said, here's this man think he can beat me. Come on, I'll fight him.
And fight him he did.
This left to the ribs and a left to the jaw, and turns things around again. Another left hook and a right. Will George go down?
At least as far as this fight goes.
A solid right hand to stun George Foreman. He can't be saved by the bell. He can't be saved by the bell, but he isn't going to go down on.
Having taken Foreman's best shots and fighting with authority all the way, Evander Holyfield retained his title. But in losing a decision, George Foreman became a folk hero.
Great fight, George. Great fight. Great fight. Great opportunity. He won. Absolutely. Great fight, baby. Great fight.
While Foreman went back to Texas to ponder his fighting future, all eyes turned to Mike Tyson, who was finally given a contractual chance to fight Holyfield and regain his title. But 3 weeks before the scheduled November bout, Tyson backed out with a rib injury. What remained for Mike was unquestionably the most important fight of his life, defending himself in Indianapolis against rape charges stemming from an incident with a beauty pageant contestant. Without Tyson, Holyfield settled for a hometown fight in Atlanta against Bert Cooper, a little-known fighter who hoped to emulate a better-known movie star.
And it's for the championship of the world. It's a big shot for you. Fight like a champ. Okay, give me five. Good luck.
I'm going to give him Rocky. That's
all right, my man. All right, good. Right.
Incredibly, Bert Cooper almost did give them Rocky, knocking the champion around the ring in a memorable 3rd round.
Holyfield wobbles in the corner. The champion in trouble. Cooper backs away. Holyfield almost goes down. Mills Lane's going to call it a knockdown and give him the count. Evander Holyfield floored in the 3rd round by Bert Cooper. Another right hand lands flush.
There's that sneaky right hand, Jim.
Holyfield in serious trouble.
And he's overworking that right hand.
A long way to go. Holyfield almost went down again.
Holyfield just... And Cooper may have punched himself out a little bit with that flurry.
Oh, what a right hand by Holyfield.
finally, in the 7th round, Holyfield showed the true mark of a champion.
This could be it now. Only 15 seconds to go in the round. Not much time for Evander. Cooper staying right there. Target practice, but he's not going to get him. I don't think he's going to get him. Mills Lane has seen enough. Mills Lane stops the fight.
Holyfield.
In 1991, Evander Holyfield defended his title twice. But with Mike Tyson's future in doubt, at year's end, it was unclear whether the former champion or George Foreman, another former champ, would present the biggest threat to Holyfield's reign in the coming year.
What can you say about the 1991 baseball season? A year not one but two teams went from last to first in a single season, and half the managers lost their jobs. A year when Rickey Henderson became baseball's all-time stolen base leader. The same day, Nolan Ryan threw an unprecedented 7th no-hitter. A year that saw the Expos' Dennis Martinez topping even Nolan the day he achieved perfection. A year when congratulations also went to Detroit's Cecil Fielder, who led the majors in RBIs and tied Oakland's Jose Canseco with 44 homers. But it was Cal Ripken Jr. of the Orioles who was named the American League's MVP in a year when none of those players were around when the playoffs began. While the Minnesota Twins thrived in the first championship series played entirely indoors, the Toronto Blue Jays stumbled badly at home. The series' key moment came in the 10th inning of Game 3 when Minnesota's Mike Pagliarulo won the game with a homer. From there, the Twins went on to sweep the Jays in Skydome as Minnesota won in 5. In the National League Championship Series, the Pittsburgh Pirates and Atlanta Braves played a memorable 7 games with momentum swinging back and forth several times. Atlanta went up 2 games to 1, but Pittsburgh was able to take the next 2 in Atlanta and headed home needing just 1 win to wrap up the series. It was a win that never came. On his way towards being named the series MVP, 21-year-old Steve Avery matched his Game 2 performance by shutting out the Pirates for 8 innings of Game 6, enabling Atlanta to come away with a harrowing 1-0 win. The next night, the Braves jumped out to a 3-run lead in the top of the first, more than enough for Atlanta pitcher John Smoltz, as the Braves shut out the Pirates again and joined the Twins in the World Series. In what turned out to be a gripping week of baseball between two teams that had been less than gripping in the recent past, the worst of first World Series began innocently enough with the Twins winning both games in front of their Homer Hanky waving fans in the Metrodome. Minnesota took the opener 5-2 thanks to a Greg Gagne homer, but it was a defensive play at the plate by one of the Braves that stood head and shoulders above the rest.
I knew we were going to have some kind of collision, and I tried to brace myself as much as possible. And fortunately, Dan's cleats got caught in my mitt, and I thought it was a good time to go into a handstand and might get a chance to get in Sportsil, and here I did. So at least I got a chance to be on the cover of Sportsil.
Another defensive play in Minnesota's 3-2 win in Game 2 might have looked better on the cover of a wrestling magazine. It happened in the 3rd inning with the Braves trailing 2-1 and threatening to tie the game.
Holding at first and coming off the bag is Ron Gant. And he is furious. The first base umpire from the...
Although Ron Gant appeared to be anchored on the first base bag, Twins first baseman Ken Herbeck gently pried him loose.
I thought it was a heck of a play by myself. Anyway, I have to pat myself on the back because I kept my glove on the guy's foot. I don't keep my glove on the guy's foot. His foot comes off, he puts it back on, he's safe. I kept my glove on his foot, he came off the bag. He's out.
The feeling wasn't mutual, but in front of their tomahawking hometown crowd in Game 3, the Braves came charging back. beginning with a stirring 12-inning marathon that ended with an unlikely hero, second baseman Mark Lemke.
Base hit. Here comes Gladden's throw. Here comes Justice. He scores. And the Braves win it. Their first victory of the World Series.
The next night, the action around home plate was even more stimulating. Going into the ninth inning of a 2-2 tie, the Braves had Lemke on third with only one out.
Right field. Here's the catch by Mack. Here's the throw by Mack. Here's Lemke. He is safe. And the Braves have scored to tie it up. 2 games apiece.
Game 5 saw the series only romp. The Braves pounded the Twins 14-5, giving Atlanta a 3-2 lead and setting the stage for the first of 2 memorable games at the Metrodome.
Right before the game, I told the guys, I said, hey guys, hang on. I'm going to carry us today. I'm going to lead us in Game 6 to make sure we get to Game 7. If somebody's got to step up, I'm going to be the one that steps up today and carries us.
On this night at least, Kirby Puckett proved to be a prophet, not only figuring in all 4 of the Twins' runs, but taking some away from the Braves as well.
At the wall, leaps in the air and makes the catch. They're trying to double.
When he hit it, I knew it wasn't out. I mean, believe me, I've seen a lot of them go out of this ballpark. But I just knew that somehow. I said, that ball's not getting out of here. I said, if it's not getting out of here, I'm going to catch it.
Puckett saved his biggest moment for the bottom of the 11th. With the game tied, the Braves sent Charlie Leibrandt to the mound, but Kirby was more than ready for what came his way.
He threw a changeup, and it didn't go down in the way. It just stayed high and over the plate, and I hit it.
2-1 pitch. Minnesota center fielder is driven to deep left center field. It is gone.
Puckett's homer gave the Twins a 4-3 win, and the next night, their championship hopes were kept alive by Jack Morris, who was intent on playing out a lifelong fantasy.
It was a dream. It was something I visualized in my head over and over again. You know, I had wanted this situation to happen. I was looking forward to it, and I was excited about it. It wasn't a nervous situation. It's like, yippee, let's go. And now the fun starts.
Fun for Morris meant torture for the Braves, and as the game progressed, it became apparent that the Twins pitcher was determined to make his dream come true. But the Twins couldn't score either, and the game remained scoreless in the top of the 8th. Then, with Lonnie Smith on first and no one out, that almost changed. Terry Pendleton doubled to left, but Smith only made it to third. Did he fall for a decoy throw to short by Twins second baseman Chuck Knobloch? Or, as he later claimed, did he just lose track of the ball? Either way, Smith's base running blunder had cost the Braves an easy chance to score. 1 out later, with the bases loaded and Atlanta on the verge of taking the lead, it was hard not to recognize the intensity of the moment.
It was nerve-wracking as heck out there.
My nerves were shot. I don't know how I made it through that. And I still haven't recovered to this day.
I can't even sit down. I'm so nervous because I knew if we could score 1 run, we'd only be 6 outs away from winning the World Series.
Sid Bream's double play grounder was just the first in a string of late-inning close calls that would ultimately define the evening. Eventually, the game would wind its way into the 10th, making it the first extra-inning 7th game since 1924. Finally, in the bottom of the 10th, the Twins had an opportunity to break through.
Alejandro deals a broken bat fly ball. That's going to be trouble. It lands for a hit. Gets by Hunter. Backed up by Gant. Gladden into second with a double.
1 out later, Dan Gladden would wind up on third, setting the stage for the potential series winner.
I knew it was going to be my turn to shine or to be the GOAT. The first pitch was a fastball away, and I just took a good swing and it went over Hunter's head. It was the greatest feeling in the world.
And the pitch to Larkin. Swung on a high fly ball into left center. The run will score. The ball will bounce for a single. And the Minnesota Twins are the champions of the world.
After splitting the first 2 Triple Crown races, it was on the Belmont track that Strike the Gold and Hansel went down the stretch to decide the year's best 3-year-old. An honor that Hansel hung on to by a head. 4 times he finished first on the oval track at Indy, but in his 34th and last 500, A.J. Foyt was out of the race after only 25 laps. This time around, the winner was Rick Mears, who joined Foyt and Al Unser Sr. as the only 4-time winners at Indianapolis.
Mears becomes the third 4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500.
In track, Carl Lewis and Leroy Burrell were unquestionably the fastest men of the year. In June, Burrell set the world record in the 100-meter dash, a record Lewis later broke at the World Track and Field Championships in Tokyo. Together, the two were also part of the United States 4x100-meter relay team, which also went to Tokyo and set a world record. For Sergei Bubka, world records were apparently nothing to jump around about. Bubka set and then broke either his own indoor and outdoor pole vault record 8 separate times in 1991, becoming, along the way, the first man to go over 20 feet. Sergei might have jumped the highest, but not the farthest. That feat belonged to Mike Powell. It had been 23 years since Bob Beamon flew more than 29 feet in the long jump, a record that many thought was unbreakable. But at the World Championships, Mike Powell soared.
I think it's something long. And it's a world record! It's a new world record! It's not gone to Carl Lewis, it's gone to Mike Powell. A following wind of 0.3 meters per second. It's not gone to Carl Lewis, it's Mike Powell, and that has broken Bob Beamon's world record.
But on the evening of August 30th, Powell had jumped 9 inches longer than his previous best, establishing a new world record of 29 feet, 4.5 inches.
In a year of change for the NFL, the Buffalo Bills and Thurman Thomas kept moving right along. But even the AFC's leading rusher didn't gain enough yards in 1991 to keep Emmitt Smith of the Dallas Cowboys from winning the league's rushing title. An honor Smith took by passing runner-up Barry Sanders of the Detroit Lions on the last day of the season. Could it be, though, that Barry wasn't even the most exciting Sanders in the league? Even Bo knows that in 1991, Deion Sanders was the only two-sport man around, having played baseball for the Braves and football for the Falcons. Of course, primetime wasn't alone in showcasing his talent. Morton Anderson of the Saints became only the third man in league history to kick a field goal of more than 60 yards, while the Dolphins' Don Shula won his 300th NFL game. There was, however, little reason for some quarterbacks to celebrate.
People call me and they always say, "Why do you think you can fly?" I said, "I'm an eagle."
But in the first half of Philadelphia's first game, the Eagle was grounded, and one of the game's premier quarterbacks was lost for the year with an injured knee. His replacements, including a remarkably resilient Jim McMahon and a game but overwhelmed Jeff Kemp, didn't fare much better physically. Although the Eagles still almost made the playoffs in a year in which playing quarterback in the NFL didn't seem like much fun at all. So where could you find fun? Well, one spot was New Orleans, where Saints owner Tom Benson reveled in his team's 8-0 start on the Saints' way towards winning their first ever NFC West title. There was plenty to get excited about in Houston, too. Warren Moon led the Oilers to another AFC Central title, while his old coach was having the time of his life in another city.
This is what you wait your entire adult life for, Ray. Get the feeling running down your arms, into your fingers. This is what life's all about.
Jerry Glanville's evangelistic style was intoxicating to the Falcons. Still, with their talent, it was no miracle that Atlanta made the playoffs for the first time since 1982. Dallas as well returned to postseason play. Just 2 seasons after losing 15 games, the Cowboys won 11 to earn their place in the playoffs, along with another turnaround team, the Detroit Lions, who won the NFC Central. The Los Angeles Raiders were one of 3 AFC West teams that made it into the postseason, although both they and the favored Kansas City Chiefs surprisingly finished behind the division's ultimate winner, the resurgent Denver Broncos. But by season's end, all signs pointed to Buffalo's return to the Super Bowl. Led by their quick strike offense, the Bills won the East for the 4th consecutive year and had the best record in the AFC. The best record in football, however, belonged to the Washington Redskins, who won their first 11 games and finished the season at 14-2. Clear-cut favorites for the Super Bowl.
In a year in which college football's race for the national championship ended inconclusively, Tony Sands of Kansas was hardly flat-footed, running for an NCAA record 396 yards in 1 game. Sands broke the mark Marshall Faulk of San Diego State had set earlier in the year, on his way toward becoming the first freshman ever to lead an NCAA season in both rushing and scoring. Meanwhile, Florida State stayed atop the wire service polls for much of the year. The explosive Seminoles ran by, over, and through a variety of opponents, thanks to quarterback Casey Weldon and his potent offense.
Weldon over center Baker, running backs are in the eye. Weldon sprints to his left, may throw. Looks toward the end zone, Coxion fires, it is caught, touchdown FSU! Clint Pryor!
To be number 1 at the start of the year, we loved it. You know, we had our destiny in our own hands. All we had to do was win.
Sorts of time, puts it in the air toward Baker. Baker's got the defender made. Baker makes the catch at the 1-yard line. Over the shoulder catch by Shannon Baker.
Near the end of September, Weldon and Florida State took an impressive step toward claiming the title with a 51-31 decimation of Michigan, at the time the nation's number 3 ranked team. Still, if the Seminoles were to win the national championship, they would have to overcome their ballyhooed intrastate rival. Just as in other recent years of glory, the message at the University of Miami was simple and direct. There was no mystery about the Hurricane attack. The offense, we're just going to throw it and make you stop us, was as explosive as ever. Even when the Hurricanes didn't have the football, they still showed electric scoring potential. Fleet Kevin Williams was a lethal kick returner. And there was plenty to cheer about on the other side of the ball as well. As the Hurricane defense showed against Penn State, it was more than ready for the showdown with Florida State. So on November 16, in the biggest college game in the history of the state of Florida, number 2 Miami faced number 1 Florida State in Tallahassee.
The anticipation before the Miami game was built in Tallahassee and in Florida, you know, the game of the century, 1 versus 2 for all the marbles, and we were ready.
Miami, of course, was ready also, scoring on the game's first drive to take an early 7-0 lead. Florida State, however, came charging back, and for much of the rest of the game, the Seminoles dominated on both sides of the ball, taking a seemingly safe 16-7 lead into the 4th quarter.
In the spot, here's the kick by Jerry Thomas. It is good, and Florida State gets a 20-yard field goal from Jerry Thomas.
But then Miami scored 10 straight points to take a 17-16 lead. Now Florida State would have to rally, and with less than a minute to play, the Seminoles did, driving inside the Hurricane 20 and into position for Jerry Thomas to kick a game-winning field goal.
Here's the snap. The kick is airborne. It is no good! Wide to the right. Miami is going to win 17-16 with 25 seconds left.
The kick went up, and on our sidelines, it looked good. But about a split second later, the Miami fans went crazy and we realized that we had, missed it.
By the slimmest of margins, Florida State's dream season was washed out by a hurricane, while Miami now had clear sailing ahead on its road to the national championship. Meanwhile, out west, the University of Washington and their coach Don James staked a claim to college football's #1 ranking by also going through the regular season with a perfect record. Led by running back Bean O'Brien, who averaged 6 yards per carry and gaining nearly 1,000 yards, Washington's offense was nearly unstoppable, especially wide receiver Mario Bailey, who set a Pac-10 record with 17 touchdown catches. And the Huskies didn't just beat teams, they beat them up, scoring more than 40 points per game while holding their opponents under 10, thanks to a ferocious defense that led Washington to its Rose Bowl date with Michigan on New Year's Day. The Wolverines could have fallen on hard times after their early season loss to Florida State, but Michigan managed to remain in the national championship picture by winning the rest of its games. Primary reason Coach Gary Moeller could still hold on to his dream was Desmond Howard, who as far back as the Wolverines' second game had begun staking his claim for the Heisman Trophy.
Back at Elvis and seeing the ball in the air and saying to myself, it wasn't like I can get to this one, but I happened to throw it in 5th gear and I stretched out, and next thing I knew I came up with the ball, but it happened so quick, you know, it was just instinct. Once I came home later on that evening and watched it on the news and stuff, I really realized the significance and magnitude of the play, and it surprised me.
After that catch, nothing Howard would do was a surprise, and in December, he easily won his Heisman Award.
Winning the Heisman Trophy means a lot to me. I really couldn't sum it up in words. It's a feeling of a great self-satisfaction and self-fulfillment. But when I get home, I'm going to have to buy a new trophy mantle because this thing is too big and too heavy for the one I already have, and plus it's special. It needs somewhere where it can sit on top.
So it was on to Pasadena on New Year's Day, where Michigan's hopes for a national title were buried under the Washington Huskies' dominant defense.
Michigan 7. Gerbach to Powers. He's belted in the backfield, doesn't make it back to the line.
None of the Wolverines could escape Washington's wrath, most especially Desmond Howard, who managed only to catch a single pass all day long. Offensively, the Huskies expanded on a 13-7 halftime lead with 3 second-half touchdowns. The last touchdown came on a 38-yard pass from Mark Brunell to Mario Bailey, giving Washington a 34-7 lead and Desmond Howard a taste of his own symbolic medicine. Washington romped on its way to a coaches' poll share of the national title. Against Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, the nation's other #1 team quickly demonstrated why it deserved its half of the national championship. Miami's quick strike offense gave the Canes an early lead, while defense smothered Nebraska's running attack, limiting the nation's top ground team to just 82 running yards. And led by Rusty Medeiros' 4 sacks, the Hurricanes simply blew the Huskers away, holding Nebraska scoreless for the first time since 1973. Larry Jones ran for a touchdown and 144 yards as Miami kept control of the ball and eased away with a 22-0 win. Who was #1? The poll said both Miami and Washington, as the two teams split the national championship.
Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers. Life is gonna go on for me, and I'm gonna be a happy man.
He thrilled tens of millions to become the single most popular athlete alive on the planet Earth today. For those accomplishments and for a humility and a quality of character demonstrated by countless gestures of kindness and charity, and for a quality of leadership so especially important in these times, Sports Illustrated is very proud to recognize Michael Jordan as its 1991 Sportsman of the Year.
Everything's been going great for me this year, and this is like another piece of this puzzle. I think it's going to stand a lot higher than any other athletic award that I've taken or won, because when you get that type of acknowledgement and accomplishment from your fans and from the public, it goes a lot deeper than just an award for your athletic ability. It goes for your personality and your whole well-being as a person. And I think this is going to be something that I cherish for a long time.